Colton first started his addiction after my husband had passed away. As a mom, that was really hard because I knew that he was struggling. And it's hard because, I was struggling myself and I wasn't really sure how to help. A couple years later, my mother and my grandmother passed away, and my son-in-law, all within 3 weeks. And so that took his addiction even deeper. It's heartbreaking because you don't know what to do to fix it. You're a mom, you're supposed to fix everything. And addiction you can't fix. Once I found out that he had given this pill and Chris had passed away, the first thing I thought about was Chris's mom, because I couldn't imagine what she was going through. When Denise contacted me, I didn't really know who she was at that time. I thought that she was calling for the widows group that I run. And when she said, "No, my son is gone because of your son," I dropped to my knees and I lost it, because I now have her on the other line and she found me. And I wanted to talk to her probably as much as she wanted to talk to me.
He, went to school to be a mechanic, had a lot of different degrees, good heart. Struggled with a relationship, which really turned things around for him in 2011. He got into doing drugs and ended up in the prison system and spent 3 3/4 years in a prison. Coming out, he found out his father was sick and dying of cancer. So that made him turn to alcohol and became an alcoholic. He loved to make people laugh. All his friends and everybody that ever encountered would say he was one of the most funniest people that wanted to make you laugh. He enjoyed that. If you could put a smile on your face, that made his day. We had just gotten him into his own apartment, but he was staying at my home, and he hadn't had the opportunity to stay in his place. He wanted to be around me and his siblings. I knew he was in recovery for his alcohol, but still was concerned that he'd sneak around and go get alcohol. So I decided to get up and go look for him, and couldn't find him. Within 20 minutes, half hour, my younger son goes to the restroom. The door's locked. We open it and we find him. We began CPR, called 911. They came, the medics came, worked on him for 20 to 30 minutes, and then pronounced him gone. At that point, you're just wondering what happened. He was on medications. He was seeing a doctor. He was on Klonopin, doing great. Knowing addiction and seeing the struggles, that your children go through, and then going into the prison sentence, as mother, you really live that prison sentence with them. And that was one of the hardest things to deal with. When he came out, he talked about it did not do anything for him but make him angrier. At that point, I started to think about things. I wanted to meet his mother. I wanted to know everything I possibly could about him. So that's where the thinking process came in, and, just a lot of prayer and thinking about what was the next step.
He was looking at 12 to 15 years in prison. And that was probably the scariest thing for me, because I don't know a lot about the prison system. I was afraid for him being there. As a mom, that's a scary thing to have your son in prison. It's a scary thing to think about your son having to go away.
I've always been a firm believer that we're all sinners, and who are we to say what sin is greater than the other? So in the situation, after talking and meeting with Misty, listening to her story of how remorseful he was and crying and so forth, you take a step back and you try to put yourself in everybody's shoes and look at the situation. So when it came to having the mercy or compassion, it was really easy for me because I saw the struggle in my own son. And I saw that a prison sentence wasn't the answer. Our system fails us a lot in certain ways, that when people come out of prison, they don't have anywhere to go, So that's what really swayed me, and this was not going to be the answer. And of course, meeting her and how much she loved her kid and hearing his story, I had to fight. I had to fight the system. Months later, I was reached out to by the prosecution. At this point, I started to think, if I'm going to do anything, this is the time to speak up and try to turn things around. So I prepared a letter, meeting with the prosecution. Of course, his position is he's looking at this many years. We're going after him. And I stopped him and said, no, you need to read a letter. That's not the route I want to go. So when he read it, he was really surprised.
I've never met anyone like Denise. I mean, we're family now. We'll always be a part of each other's life. We go to Chris's grave. We've done that, and we've cleaned it up. And so I just want people to know that there's hope out there. I think one of the biggest things that I've taken away from Pastor Trevor is when he says, you need to get so close to the fire that you come out smelling like smoke. And he said that, and that for me was huge. Because, as a mom, you don't know what to do. Do you have tough love? Do you help them? What do you do? And at that point, when Trevor said that one Sunday, I was like, all right, I'm going to start smelling like smoke. I need to get this boy. I need to get him where he needs to be.
And I think an important thing, too, is when I look at the situation, neither one intended that outcome. They both had a part in it. Then you have to say, this kid is in his prime as well, in his 30s. And he's going to go spend this many years in prison. What's that going to do for him? What's it going to do for his family? And so all that mercy and compassion comes in there of saying, why tear two families apart when there's a chance to heal somebody else in this? And I think that's the big, thing to look at.
Colton is doing really great. He was able to get into rehab, and he is in a sober living program right now, and he's doing amazing. He's been clean for 8 months, and he's just thriving every single day.
Yes, he's doing great.
He is.